Hi everyone, I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Well, hey guys, and welcome to the JMOR Tech Talk Show, a very special JMOR Tech Talk Show. This is the finale of 2025, and very happy because after this show, we're actually on the air 4 years in a row. Wow, a big round of applause for us on that, I know. And starting next year, January 1st, but actually the show actually kicks off on January 2nd, we will be officially starting, well, our 5th year on the air. I mean, that's just incredible. So, for those of you that are new here, I want to take the opportunity to welcome you. If you are coming back, I'd like to say welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back. There's so much great content here. If you have not checked out believemeachieve.com, what are you waiting for? Go check that out after the show. I know you're going to definitely be pretty elated with what you find there, and hopefully this will improve you in the attributes you have so you can have a better quality of your life. Thank you for watching us, whether you've been watching us on cable TV, whether you're watching us on the podcast, whether you're just watching the audio, listening to the audio only, I should say, or you're just, streaming us from believemeachieve.com, whatever it is, or just YouTube. Really do appreciate everyone, all of our partners. We have people in New York. We have people all around the world that are broadcasting our show. We have stations in New Jersey, Oakland, New Jersey, and other stations in New Jersey that are broadcasting our show. So we really want to say thank you to all those for making the choice to make this part of their network, including those in New York. Also at BronxNet, we want to thank them for our partnership and having them share our great content. Really a privilege and a pleasure to be on all these wonderful media stations. All right, guys, without any further ado, I want to kick this off. But before I do, I want to let you know if you're parched, if you're thirsty, if you want a snack or something, feel free to go grab the. Oh, and by the way, Merry belated Christmas. Happy belated Hanukkah if you celebrated that. Happy Kwanzaa or whatever other holiday you celebrated. I hope it was a happy and healthy one. And I hope you created some very amazing, priceless memories that you can share with others. Friends and family for years to come. I think you definitely know that holiday times are a very special time when we come together. It's not just about the presents. In fact, it's about us. It's about the presents. And depending on what religion you celebrate, it's about the meaning for the season. So not to get too much into that, but I do want to wish everyone very happy, healthy. Of course, I want to wish you a very happy, healthy, prosperous, and abundant 2026, because this is the last time I'm going to see you until next year. Right. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and kick this show off. I know I've been excited to kick this show off. And I think a lot of you out there are saying, hey, John, this is kind of amazing. I know a lot of you are saying to myself, how is it that we can become better by listening to technology? Well, you see, technology is a structure in our life. And when we choose to adapt to technology, we can learn from it. Okay. That's very important. And I know some of us say, well, John, I'm not ready for this, or I'm not a tech person. I am a tech person. There's still a lot that you can gain from technology, even if you're not technical. Okay. There's so much you can learn from it. There's just a lot out there. And I think if we can understand that, we can learn a lot. Okay. I mean, that might be hard for some of you to understand, but it's really the truth. Technology is a structure. All right. It's a very big structure. Or a microcosm, if you will. Everything kind of falls under that structure. And so in our world, when we have structure, of course, we can have things that are not structured, but we need some type of structure so we can get structure. Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, I hope it does. All right. I started the show out, like I said, it'll be over. Oh gosh. Well, this year it's going to be over. It's going to be over 4 years now that we are officially on the air. So really grateful everyone for definitely choosing to be here with me each and every week. Really do appreciate that. So this week, ladies and gentlemen, on the JMOR Tech Talk Show. First, who am I? I'm John C. Morley, if you don't know who I am by now. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm an engineer and marketing specialist, video producer, graduate student, and a passionate lifelong learner. And what do I do uniquely? Yes, I break down how governments, platforms, criminals, and AI are all pulled into major power moves at the same time, hitting your privacy, which is a big concern. If you don't think it is, you definitely should know it is. I was making a decision on trying to get one of these AI pins, and I was researching them. And there was one I was looking at. I'm not going to give the name, but it started with the letter capital B. And I was very close to getting it. But then when I heard that Amazon was buying it, I said, oh, heck no. There's no way I'm going to buy something where Amazon just inherited it, because we all know that Amazon's privacy is just, well, I will go there. But when I heard Amazon was buying it, I said, there's no way you could give it to me and I don't want it. So I'm still searching for something because I want to explore and see if it's worth it. But a lot of them have been, well, crappy. They have had bad reviews. They claim they have a 30 or 60-day money-back guarantee. I'm not just ready to go plunge and get one. Eventually I will. But I think the security needs to be tightened up first before I'm willing to do that. And even I wouldn't have this thing on, excuse me, 24 hours a day. Because the important thing is that you have to turn on when you want it on, not all the time. So your wallet, your privacy, your devices. From South Korea putting a cash price on data breaches to Instacart getting nailed for dark patterns to RAM shortages and jackpotting ATMs. What's that? We'll talk about it. This is the final map of the tech battles that is going to shape the 2025 year ending, but actually starting to build the real true shape of what is in 2026. So without any further ado, guys, this is the place where you get your tech insights, whether you're a tech person like me or whether you're somebody that just wants to learn enough tech so you can protect yourself, your home, your privacy, your family, and those you care about. So the first one I want to talk about is SK Telecom hit with massive breach payouts. If you're thinking my voice sounds a little bit off today, well, you're not wrong. This is the second time in my entire life that my ears played some games on me. And just getting over that and just being able to hear just about 3 days ago from my left ear, pretty well. But there's still a little lingering in there. So that's why I might not sound, let's say, as on pitch as I normally do. So I do apologize for that. But I do want to make sure this show gets out. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, South Korea's consumer agency wants about $67 per victim. So, those are important things to think about. But we're going to talk a lot more, like I said, about the privacy, what's going on, why people need to be aware of these things. This is not propaganda. This is not something we're doing just because we're doing it. We're doing it because there's an importance, because there's a meaning. In fact, a lot of the vendors don't like me talking about this. When we talk about the South Korea, putting a cash price on data breaches to Instacart getting nailed for the dark patterns, as I said, to RAM shortages and the jackpotting. This is a little alarming for some people. And like I said, this is going to shape 2026 forever. But, I think it's important to understand, like with South Korea's consumer agency wanting the $67 per victim for 23 million users, it's turning privacy failures into multi-billion won liabilities. I mean, that's just like insane. Everybody thinks AI is this great big bubble they can make money in. Okay, yes, you can make money in it, but there's still this importance that we do the right thing even when no one else is watching. Today, people are starting to use AI to exploit others and to write viruses, so much other stuff that should not be allowed. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, I'm told it's finally here. The TikTok US spun into the Oracle-led joint venture, an Oracle-backed joint venture keeps TikTok alive in America, but risks creating a separate US TikTok. And this is going to be under tighter rules. Now, I have to tell you, I've worked a little bit with Oracle. I've had some contract projects where I've had to work with the companies. I'm not going to mention their names. And their platform, I'm not going to lie here, it was awful. Did it gather the data? Yes, but it was so un-user friendly. I was using it as an expense report when I was doing some training for it was actually a company that produces software for libraries. And their system was so awful, was so terrible. Now, maybe it was because they just took it out of the box and they really didn't know what they were doing and they just kind of implemented it. Or maybe the software really is that bad. But I know one thing. I feel there's much better software out there that can track your data right out of the box. Being a programmer and developer for many years, I know that we write better software than that. So, and we're a small company, but I have to tell you, so many companies out there are all about the money, are all about, how can we gain an extra 5 cents? How can we gain an extra 10 cents? But they don't think about how it's going to impact us. I'm going to give you a perfect example. So here in Florida visiting my parents, we always get sparklers for the new year. Well, they usually come in this very big box and, pretty big sticks and whatnot. Well, now this year, the box has reduced in size by like 50%. And the sparklers are like about 25% smaller. And the price has jumped about 20%. So something's wrong with that picture. People are trying to figure out how to make things cheaper. And then they're still trying to figure out how to, well, let's say, charge us more money. And I think that's a problem. I don't mind paying more money for something when there is value. But if I'm just paying more money because a company decides, well, I need to get a Lamborghini, I need to get a Ferrari, or I need to finance a new wing, I think there's something wrong with that picture. I mean, I'm being honest with everybody. I'm not trying to lie to you. I'm just trying to be honest. And today's topic, I thought I would share the topic with you. I know I didn't share that before. Today's topic is a really good one, and it is the finale of 2025. Data finds, dark patterns, and drone bans. This week's wildest tech power plays, Series 4, and it's the year finale. Until, guys, we kick into, we'll be in the Series 5. I still am having a hard time fathoming that we're going to be in in our fifth year, but we'll be there. So Shein escapes a shutdown and faces strict fines. A Paris court blocked a 3-month ban, but imposed age checks and big fines over illegal and harmful products as France pushes the European Union to get tougher. Well, what does this mean in English? I mean, I think that's probably an important thing to say is, what does all this mean? I think what it means is, this whole thing for what happened, which were these, let's say, adult type graphic, childlike dolls, and they're called banned weapons. And instead of forcing age checks and the 10,000 pound fines now per breach, while France vows to appeal and lobby to the European Union to crack harder and ultra cheaper marketplaces like Shein. Is this consumer protection or is it political theater? I don't know. I think it's political theater. I think people try to see what they can do to get away with. And if somebody else says, oh, yeah, let me see, we go out that door's open. Yeah, let me go out that door before somebody locks the door. Or online, somebody posts something, a content that's not appropriate. So, oh, gee, let's go post to that group. Everybody else is doing it. Well, nobody else is going to catch it. Eventually, that group's going to get in trouble, right? Because somebody's going to come to that group that's probably not appreciating that content, and the whole group's going to get shut down. So that's how that works. And AI-written phishing targets Russian defense. That's right. A pro-Ukraine group uses consumer AI tools to craft convincing fake state letters that lure Russian defense contractors into phishing campaigns. I mean, this is like insane that this is going on, okay? The pro-Ukrainian group was dubbed Paper Werewolf, and as I said, luring Russian defense contractors with AI-generated fake invites and government letters. off-the-shelf AI tools are quietly supercharging high-stakes cyber espionage. Misuse, not the tech, is becoming the real battlefield. And I think that's something that a lot of people get concerned of. I know myself, going back to school for my master's in AI and PhD in AI, I know it's really vital for me to not only learn as much as I can about this, but also to educate people so that they can see how to use a tool. What do I mean by that? So let's forget the AI world for a minute. Let's say you have a screw, okay, in the wall. Let's say you have a one that might be a flathead screw, right? And one that might be a Phillips head screw. One screw, for example, if you use a Phillips head, it kind of bites, like we said, all the one, like the exit, the whole sides, right? The other one, you can use a flathead in some Phillips heads, but it's going to be a lot more torque, and it's going to be a lot easier, and you could turn a Phillips quicker than you could with a regular, because you're not going to keep, the blade's not going to keep slipping out. And you can't use a Phillips in a flat blade. Yeah, it's not going to work, because there's another set of points there, another edge. So I think a lot of the problem that we face in our world is not the technology is bad. It's that people are trying to find ways to use technology to benefit them without being considerate of the greater good of all concerned. Now, you might say, John, why do these smart people do this? I don't know. I think because they can. And I've said this before. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Let me say that again. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. But I know a lot of people out there are going to keep doing this because they think it's fun. And also because they're making money at it. So there's something wrong with this picture. And we as a society need to push back on the people that are using artificial intelligence to abuse the information. Why did I not buy this product that started with the letter B? Well, because I heard Amazon was buying the product. Even though the AI product was only $50 and the service wasn't very much, the fact that Amazon was buying it, I said, I'll be darned if I want Amazon in my back pocket. It's bad enough I buy them for stuff here and there, and I give them very little information. I don't even give them my cell phone, okay? Try calling them for support. You're probably better off talking to a wall. Well, seriously. All right. And Zara deploys AI clone models for, yes, this is something really cool, for shoots. One photo shoot now feeds endless AI-generated outfit shots, saving costs while threatening future work for, well, photographers and junior creatives. But let's dive a little deeper. I mean, John, what is this all about? I think you're asking a good question. So Zara's using AI to remix photos of real models into endless outfit shots. As I said, paying them, excuse me, as if they'd flown in again. While photographers warn this could quietly erase future shoots and entry-level creative jobs. Is this innovation or slow death of the fashion photography? I think this is abuse, and I think this is very similar to what I'm going to call the big bubble, right? We've all seen what happens with the big bubble and the e-commerce world, where, it was the big .com era, where people were putting values into things, but they really didn't have that much value for anything. They thought they were great, but then they exploited them, and people paid it, and then eventually those domains, well, they went bust. And so I think when we overvalue something too quickly, and people then learn about it, well, the trust is broken immediately. And once that happens, nobody is ever going to want to go back, right? I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, completely honest here. UPS, yes, I know we always get confused on these letters. So the UPS is doing something very interesting, right? But I think the important thing about this is a very important thing to understand. Is that the UPS, and again, it's not the USPS, it's the UPS. Okay, so UPS is USPS, United States Postal Service. The UPS company is the one we're talking about here. And they're using AI now to detect fake returns. Well, Happy Return scans the box-free drop-offs with AI to flag swapped or fake items before refunds, going after a massive return fraud problem. Okay, you want to return those brand new, let's say, hookah sneakers because they don't fit properly. So you go to return them, which they're expecting to get that $150 or $200 pair or more pair of brand new sneakers or ones that are defective. But instead, you don't return them with those. You actually return them with some old beat up sneakers from 5, 10 years ago. And for a while, it had been working. But now they're realizing that people were beating the system, so they had to do something. Guess what? They did do something. I don't think this is going to affect a lot of people. People that were not trying to beat the system are not going to care about this process. I frankly don't care about it. But people that were, let's say, making it their livelihood to beat the system, to take products, to sell them on eBay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's the ones that they're trying to go after. I mean, let's just be honest, all right? Starlink satellite fails and sheds some space debris. A Starlink abnormality added more junk to crowded low Earth orbit recently, highlighting how quickly space is becoming an unmanaged trash field. I don't think we realize that because none of us really, well, I haven't been to space lately, have you? None of us really have gone to space. And, but it doesn't mean that it's not a problem, right? It still affects our ecosystem and, and what's going on. And so SpaceX says one Starlink satellite suffered an onboard abnormality and shed dozens of debris pieces and started tumbling toward reentry. Another reminder that a crowded sky plus no global traffic rules is turning low orbit from the Earth into slow motion junkyards. And reentry means it could be hitting into Earth. And that could be a very, very big problem, not just from the waste perspective, but even from a safety perspective. Like, hey, I'm hearing, whoa, what's that? A satellite phone almost hit me in the head, right? And, think about this, all right? You might say, gee, what's the big damage? Well, even if you dropped, I don't know if you guys know this, if you got hit, let's see, how do I explain this easily? If you got hit with a quarter, okay, falling, let's say, higher or about the height of the World Trade Center, it could be fatal. Now, that's an interesting statement, isn't it? And that's not a myth. It wouldn't be fatal in normal conditions. The myth about a coin drop from a skyscraper killing someone has been debunked many times. So a quarter, like a penny, is a small light and has a lot of air resistance relative to its weight. So it quickly reaches a relatively low terminal velocity as it tumbles through the air. What can be deadly from that height are heavier, more aerodynamic objects like tools, bolts, ice chunks, or falling tape measures that have much more mass and less drag. Those can reach higher energies and cause serious or fatal injuries if they hit someone directly. How fast? Well, again, the quarter, because of the way it's designed, this is why I brought it up, a quarter reaches a terminal velocity of 20 to 30 m per second, 45 to 65 miles per hour when dropped from great distances. How much would, let's say, ice fall at? Well, let's think about that for a moment, because ice, again, is not aerodynamic. For a rough estimate, assume a quarter's velocity is 25 to 30. In the World Trade Center, 415 m, North Tower routes can be a problem. So if we think about this, it wouldn't go much faster than that. It'd be about 56 miles per hour. But because of the weight, it would become fatal to people underneath it. And that's a very, very serious problem. All right, guys. So Flock license plate AI fuels policing dragnet. Yeah. Flock's camera network helped track the Brown University shooting suspect's car, while critics warn it can log everyone's drives into a searchable map. So the question you might be asking, and it's a very, very good question. So what is the FlockNet license system? So to try to explain this in a simple way. Basically, it's a system that allows you to track license plates. Okay. And the thing is, if this system is able to read every kind of plate everywhere, right? This could be a serious problem. So it helped the police track down, but is it being used for bad actors to do things, right? So they call it the automatic license plate reader. And now this is even stronger than Flock, which has been getting so much press. The new plate recognizer, they call it, is better than Flock. It analyzes images or live camera feed, saves money. They offer free trials and all this other stuff. But the thing about this, the Flock camera license plate reader, you can actually get this on Amazon. I don't know if you know this. And this little device, okay, runs around $200. That's not a lot, guys. No Wi-Fi needed, motion activated, night vision, SIM card included, on-demand mode, 15-second video clips. So it has the right thing to be able to grab the license plate quickly. Probably better than what you see at the Easy Pass lanes, which were designed, hundreds of years ago. So it's creeped out, or is it about crime solving? I think people need to know when their license plates are going to be monitored. Like if you're in a public place, I still think it comes down to notifying people, letting people know that they are being watched, they are being monitored. I don't know if you know this in New Jersey, but it's still, unless they've changed the law, well, they might have, it is illegal to record someone's audio in New Jersey without telling them. So that's a pretty interesting statement, right? But if you're part of a conversation, you can legally record it without telling the other person or getting a consent, as long as one person in New Jersey knows about the conversation. So, but it is illegal to record audio in surveillance without telling or posting a sign, okay? But a lot of people think, oh, what's the big deal? And then you try to bring it to court, and guess it doesn't work. So the New Jersey law is stricter about surveillance-style audio than about you recording your own conversations, but it's still not as simple as always illegal unless there's a sign. So one-party consent still applies if the audio being captured is of conversations where at least one party has consented, for example, the business owner or an employee participating in the conversation that generally satisfies New Jersey's Party 1 consent rule. However, secret audio of others is the big problem. If you install mics to capture other people's private conversations that you're not part of, and no one in the conversation has consented, that can violate New Jersey's wiretapping eavesdropping law. For example, you own a store, and you're the owner of the store, but you're not always at the store, and you haven't told your employees that the store is being recorded, you possibly could violate that law. Signs help, but they aren't magic. Posting audio and video recording in use or telling people in a policy can support an argument that people hadn't noticed. It implied consent, but doesn't override all privacy expectations. For example, it can never been used in a restroom, changing area, or certain staff rooms. So video versus audio, let's talk about that for a minute. Pure video surveillance without sound is generally treated differently and is more often allowed in public-facing areas. Adding audio brings it under wiretapping rules and raises the legal stakes. So a more accurate statement to this would be, it can be illegal in New Jersey to run audio fit surveillance that records other people's private conversations without any party's consent, and merely adding or omitting a sign doesn't by itself make it illegal or legal, right? For any real deployment, store, office, HOA, school, you'd want a lawyer to review placement notice and purpose against New Jersey's wiretapping and privacy rules. That's a very important thing to understand. So what you have to realize is if you ever go to court with this information, they do not allow in the, let's say in the pre thing before you go to court, they actually try to do settlement, right? And they try to do mediation. They always try to do that. I don't know if you know this, but if there are 50 cases, probably 2 or 3 of them will go to court. The other 46, 47 of them actually never make it to court. They will all be settled. So hearsay, it's an out-of-court statement offered in court to prove that what the statement says is true. Because the person who made the statement isn't testifying live and can't be cross-examined, hearsay is usually not allowed as evidence unless it fits specific exceptions, like certain business records, excited utterances, or statements against interest. So can you use cell phones, cameras in court as data? Well, that brings a very, very good question to the spectrum here. So cell phone camera recordings can be used as evidence in court, but they have to meet the normal rules for admissibility. The party offering the video has to show it's what they say it is, or you or a witness testifies of it. I recorded this on my phone on X date at Y place. Not illegal obtained. If the recording violates wiretapping or privacy laws, well, you're automatically out. Secret audio of a conversation you weren't part of or in a two-party state, a judge may exclude, and you could face legal risk. So you can use covert audio if you are somebody in the conversation. In New Jersey, one-party consent applies for audio, but secret recording others' private conversations you're not part of can be unlawful. Let me say that again. In New Jersey, one-party consent applies for audio, but secretly recording others' private conversations you're not part of can be unlawful. So if I'm having a conversation with you, all right, and I want to make sure everything is good and smooth, great. But now if I use that technology to record other people's conversations, well, now I'm breaking the rules. So hearsay rules still apply. If people are talking on the video, what they say may be hearsay, unless it fits the exception or exemption rules. The video self-image can still be used to show what happened, like a theft, a break-in, etc. Metadata and a chain of custody. For more serious cases, lawyers often establish when and how the file was created, stored, and transferred to argue it wasn't tampered with. So yes, photos and videos from a phone are routinely used in civil and criminal cases, but they have to be legally obtained, properly authenticated, and survive hearsay and other evidentiary challenges, which can happen. So again, bottom line, New Jersey, you can record conversations. You're trying to do this to protect yourself, negotiation like that, because one party is still part of the conversation. All right. So Europe rolls out river and seawater mega heat pumps. Cities like Mannheim and Aalborg are installing giant heat pumps that pull warmth from rivers and seas to heat tens of thousands of homes. Now, as soon as I had put this out earlier this week, because you know how we work, we put the reels out and then the show comes later in the week. So I immediately rebutted it. So I asked them, where do you live? And they don't even live in the country. So how can somebody that's not in the country rebuttal that, right? I thought that was kind of like, I thought that was kind of wild. But some people, they just do this because they feel they can, right? They do it because they can. And so Europe is swapping coal plants for mega heat pumps that literally siphon the water from rivers and seas to heat tens of thousands of homes, starting with Rhine-powered systems in Mannheim, big enough for 40,000 households. And even larger, like 177 megawatt seawater plant in Aalborg will cover about a third of the city's heating, turning infrastructure into a giant clean energy radiator under the streets. These are pretty interesting innovations. And if they work overseas, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, they might be adapted to work right here in the United States. So some very powerful, interesting things are taking place. And AI toys, ladies and gentlemen, they definitely dominated the kids' holiday wish list this season. Smart pets and robots, just to name a few of them, remembers kids' names, their likes, it remembers addresses, phone numbers, and all kinds of things. Sometimes things you don't want them to remember. The child's moods, their routines, how to push their buttons, in other words. Raising alarms right now over the data collection and profiling in the playroom. So something that a kid might be doing and thinking is completely harmless, and parents think it's completely harmless, later on turns into, well, an issue that could turn into either a restraining order situation, could turn into somebody trying to, unfortunately, break into your home. These are serious things. And many people are not thinking about it because, like, oh, it's just a toy, right? So again, the hottest toys or dolls for girls or for guys or trains, but the chatty AI pets, like I said, the robots, and they learn your kid's voice. They can even repeat your kid's voice. Yeah, moods and routines in real time. And the tech is now showing Shiana McCullum tests how these smart companies really work and asks whether hidden mics, data collection, and glitchy guardrails make them more creepy than cute under the tree. And I think right now we don't think this is a problem because there hasn't been a big number of cases, and hopefully there never will be a big number of cases. It seems like when there's a number of cases, that's when I think it gets to be a problem, and we have to deal with it. So there are a few companies out there that are definitely doing stuff like this, and a lot of the influencers out there saying, not a big deal. Some people are saying it's a big deal. Even people in the in the BBC are concerned about this. And, they get concerned about lots of stuff too. So Shiana McCollum meets an AI startup working to fix erratic clothing sizes in fashion. But now it's becoming a lot more than that. It's becoming, why are you grabbing this data, right? And should people be concerned about this? I get concerned when a big company like Amazon, Amazon's just one of them. There are other bad giants like Amazon that, unfortunately, they exploit data. They claim that it's just a mistake. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, who knows? And then when they get a slap on the wrist with a $50,000 fine, they go away. I think they got to get hit with a lot harder than a $50,000 fine. I'm talking like a few $1 million fine. So same thing happens with Google, right? They make a mistake and, we'll slap them on the wrist. We'll slap Google for 50,000. Oh, sure, no problem. We got to slap them for millions, maybe billions, right? These mistakes that these companies are making are because they are not being conscientious of the ramifications that can transpire using technology without providing proper safety rails, safeguards. We all know what happened. None of you guys remember the story about, I'm trying to remember the company now, the company that got exploited in the IV industry for bad actors and the PIN. Do you remember that company? I'm trying to remember the name of them. But anyway, there was this company, and they fixed it now. With all types of intravenous pumps and stuff, they had a 4-digit PIN. Okay, it was communicating basically back to another device in some cases, and that other device a lot of times was your iPhone. There was a 4-digit PIN that if you knew the 4-digit PIN, you could turn on, turn off, lower the dosage, raise the dosage, all just like you were right in front of the machine. That 4-digit PIN was a big problem. Now, pumps can no longer use just pins. We can crack codes like that are just numbers. So that meant that company had to take a big decision to fix that. But it wasn't their decision to fix it. It was the law coming down on them saying, hey, look, this is what was caused. Now, maybe it was an oversight because you didn't understand how passwords work, which was kind of like oxymoronic. But maybe that was the case. So we're going to give you 90 days to fix the problem, and we're going to charge you with a $10,000 fine. I'm just giving you an example. But anywhere codes are used, anywhere information can be exchanged from one piece to another, something as simple as your washing machine, your dishwasher. You might say, John, what's the big deal? Anytime a device can learn information. That's why I was very interested about these smart assistants, because I thought they'd be kind of cool, especially going back to being in school and stuff. But then I got to thinking about it. I got to thinking about, well, who's going to have that data? So then I said to myself, you know what I'm better off to do? I'm better off to just get myself an MP3, take the data, load it into a chat GPT or whatever I want later on, but I control what's in it. So I just don't think there's a company right now that cares enough about your privacy. That's the bottom line. And a lot of these companies, they want to give you a minimal amount of recording time. And then some want to charge you a fee on top of that to transcribe it. I mean, come on. Like, really? Seriously? All right. And ladies and gentlemen, Instacart, yes, they were fined again for dark pattern, free delivery fees, a $60 million Federal Trade Commission deal flags were hidden fees and tricky subscription prompts as deception, not a clever UI, we would say. But the thing is this, things like, they were not able, people weren't able to cancel so easy. They were getting hit with other fees. And, there's only so long that this can go on. Maybe this falls into the lap of a relative of a judge or something. And then guess what? It becomes like their pet project to make sure this is done properly, right? They, in the free delivery that they said was free delivery, they added mandatory fees and sneaky auto-renewing Instacart trials, while a separate probe zeroed in on AI pricing tool that can quietly charge different shoppers different prices for the exact same groceries at the same store. I think that is a serious crime. But because technology was doing it behind the scenes, nobody caught it. I mean, that could happen at any store, right? But I think the fact that we as individuals need to be aware of it. I think things like standards, like, there's standards for scales, right, that they have to do. Maybe there needs to be standards for AI. Maybe there needs to be a standard that it gets reviewed every year, right? If it's going to be used. Maybe the ruling is that if you have more than 1,000 users on, if you have more than, maybe it's 5,000 users on it, okay, that it needs to be checked yearly and it needs to be sealed with a sticker, just like the national, what do they call that? There's a seal, scales. They need to be, I'm trying to think of the name of the company now. They need to be verified every year. In the food industry and other industries too, by the way, not just that. So there's Mettler Toledo. So it's a federal regulation. Basically, what it states, they're different ones depending on which classification you fall into. So there's testing of scales. It's the 442.4 testing of scales. The operator each official establishment that weighs, for example, meat or poultry, will cause such scales to be tested for accuracy in accordance with the technical requirements of the NIST Handbook 44. So, and it's not just them, it's also the medical industries and things like that, because there is the possibility, gentlemen, that scales they can go awry. They can get uncalibrated, right? And we know over time that a penny can make a big difference. Pennies can mean millions or billions over time. We learned from a movie that was based on a true story how they waited just before midnight to transfer pennies out of these different accounts that hopefully nobody would notice. And nobody did notice. But the thing is, a penny makes a difference. There was one kid that got his entire college education funded by asking several thousands of people for pennies, a penny each. That was pretty cool. And ladies and gentlemen, Apple adds auto clawback and new European Union Tech Commission. New rules let Apple and auto deduct, quote unquote, underpaid commissions from future in-app revenue while it reshapes fees under the European Union digital laws. So this is kind of crazy, but so now Apple can basically be Apple could be like a collector kind of hidden in there. Yeah, so Apple just turned the App Store into their own private collections center. Apple's new developer terms basically flip a switch that lets it auto debit underpaid commissions from your future in-app purchases, even across sister apps. Sorry about that. When we're visiting and we have people visiting and stuff like that, we never know what we're going to have. We can have live people show up. We could have something fall out of a ceiling. So I do apologize for any inconvenience there and the doorbell just ringing. But even the sister apps, while it rolls out a new core technology commission in the European Union and tightens rules on iPhone AI assistants, secret recording users. I mean, these are some real problems. And another one I want to talk about, guys, is the Trend d'Agla ITM jackpotting. This one just really hit me. Malware ring was busted. The U.S. prosecutors charged 54 people in a playouts-based scheme that made ATMs spit out cash on command, costing banks tens of millions. I didn't say thousands. I had tens of millions. Yeah. So a Venezuelan gang tied to Tren de Agua allegedly hit ATMs across the U.S. with a plow-to spyware, popping open machine panels, swapping hard drives, or USB plug payloads so the cash dispensers spewed jackpots on command, then wiping the logs to hide millions in losses until the feds finally indicted 54 people in one of the biggest ATM hacking cases ever. So NCR, one of the big manufacturers of the software behind the ATM machines, had realized an interesting thing that was happening. Well, they were getting hit by another method, and that was using endoscopy. They were using the endoscopy type method, very similar to the human body. They were using these cameras to basically go up, endoscopy cameras, and they would go up the chutes, and they were able to use the cameras to confuse the sensors and getting them to spew out large amounts of cash. So NCR recently took this very seriously, and they quickly and promptly deployed an update, which I think was version 3.0. And if your machine has the 3.0 update, there has been no issues with these type of cameras, sensors causing problems with the sensors to fake them out to actually serve the money. And again, they were going up the cash chute. It was just very interesting, how this happened. It just baffled me that somebody would try to do something like this. The ATMs were often on camera and stuff like that. And I guess maybe they hid the camera. Who knows what they did? But all I know is that this was pretty low and pretty pathetic that they would try to do something like this. And I'm glad that NCR responded. We don't hear a lot about NCR, but I want to let you know that NCR makes a lot of the ATM software. And so they're kind of like the name, you don't know. And so NCR was used in a lot of retail stores and stuff like that. So I'm glad to see that they've resolved that, but really terrible how that had played out. Samsung RAM shortage. Yes, it worsens amid the alleged kickback probe of DDR5. It's scarce and pricey as Samsung probes alleged bribes for priority supplying while favoring high-margin AI and server buyers. But what does all this mean in English? Because, I know that sounds like a lot of gobbledygook. It does. So in the middle of basically an AI-fueled RAM shortage, Samsung now is being forced to investigate whether some employees secretly took kickbacks to scare and steer the source of the memory orders while DDR5 pricing was exploding. Micron bailed on consumer RAM to chase data center AI money, and PC makers quietly jacked up the graphic processing units, laptops, and SSD prices to cope with this. So what do people do? Microsoft does the same thing, right? When they see that the hardware you've got is too up to snuff after a few versions, well, they make their software have larger requirements that your processor currently doesn't have. Even if it just changes it by a small percentage, if your processor can't handle that small percentage upgrade, well, then it's time for a new computer. And that's how we get the obsolescence of computers every single year. This is a lot, guys. Really a lot happening. This entire year, when we think about everything from the very beginning to the end and what's been happening with TikTok and the fact that there's supposed to be an M2 or M3 version, supposedly that's going to happen now as the deal has been closed. But they're also saying that TikTok is possibly going to not be the same TikTok. What does that mean? It means that it's going to be a watered down version. Is it going to be gated and not allowing us to have access to European versions? Very possibly. I think we got to stop things like a lot of the China and a lot of the foreign countries trying to, they're not successful, but they're trying to waste our traffic on websites because they're trying to look for something. It's pretty pathetic that these foreign companies foreign countries, not companies, countries are doing this. I think we as a country need to be mandating the traffic that's coming over internationally. I think that's the only valid thing, because if that's done, then people can be more protected. I don't think it's a one single human's responsibility. I don't think it's a company's responsibility here in the United States. I think it's the foreign countries, what they're doing there. I think the United States has to be proactive in traffic that crosses the borders. And I know that gets a little hard with IP, but yes, it can be done. And at the bottom line, if there's a complaint, it's going to hit through the Federal Trade Commission, right? We all know that. So this year has brought us a lot of things. People have asked me, John, is AI going to get rid of jobs? Can I tell you it's going to get rid of jobs? No. Can I tell you it's going to change the type of jobs out there? Yes. So the jobs that you currently are going for, those jobs may not be there. So a lot of these task-based jobs, a lot of these jobs where there's a lot of labor involved, those jobs are going to disappear, okay? Jobs where there's issues where humans can make mistakes, machines can do it over and over again and never get tired, right? I think that's where we're going to see AI taking over. As far as AI replacing everything, no. AI is a companion. AI is a supplement, okay? AI is not a replacement for your brain. I know people are saying, gee, it's going to be as smart as a human brain, but really our human brain is learning by a lot of different things. I don't feel that AI is going to get to that level. I think it's going to get very smart and that it can learn from us, but I think humans are going to keep evolving. As AI evolves, I think humans are going to keep evolving. Most people don't know that, well, most people only use about 2 to 4% of their brain. Let's just think what could happen if we started using 10 or 20% of our brain. I mean, that would just blow people out of the water. I think what's happening with the AI boom is people are saying, gee, you know what? I can make a lot of money in my life because of AI, not caring about the fact that it might harm somebody else in the world, because they're not caring about the greater good of all concerned. They're just being greedy, and they're seeing that green money, or, they're seeing that ACH transfer into their account. And so they're getting a little bit greedy and grubby about that. And so that's why I think it's important that these data fines, that these dark patterns are monitored. We saw just not too long ago that Google decided to drop. Next year, they're going to drop their dark monitor. Why would a company even do that? They're not deleting the data from it, but they're going to delete the monitor. Like, why would you do that, Google? I don't know. Google just seems to me like they just do whatever they want. They have a few dollars, and they think they can do what they want. But I think eventually that's going to change. And I know between Google and I know between Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and stuff like that, they're writing AI like that's all they have. And I feel AI is a great part of everything, but it shouldn't be the replacement of everything. And when you put all your eggs in one basket, what actually happens? Well, if that basket goes south, you lost all your eggs. So that's why it's important to put some eggs in one basket, some eggs in another basket, and diversify. You do the same thing with stocks, right? In portfolios, you don't put all your money or all your investments into one stock or one portfolio. You distribute them evenly. And I think that's an important thing. This entire year, ladies and gentlemen, of 2025 has been a really interesting year. We started touching AI. We started learning that, there were lawsuits with, New York Times and even the game Wordle and stuff like that. There were lawsuits with Amazon and AI and the Wall Street Journal, right? But guess what? Now they're kind of sleeping together. Now they're working together. Why? Because they found a way to make money off of something. Once money starts to enter the picture, it's sad how quickly the ethics and the morality of doing something seems to just not be important anymore. I've said this to you before, guys. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Let me say that again. Just because you should do something doesn't mean you should. And there are lots of reasons for that, right? And like I said to you before, AI is a tool, all right? Just like any other tool in the world. It could be a power tool, anything. It could even be a weapon. It's how we choose to use it that determines whether it's good or bad. The technology itself doesn't become good or bad on its own. It's based on the application, based on the end user, based on the deployment and the purpose of that deployment. People are ultimately responsible. We were talking about something the other day. I was talking about something with an attorney, and we were talking about self-driving cars. I said if a self-driving car hypothetically gets into a little offender bender or worse, who gets sued? He goes, well, John, he goes, the driver, but the driver's not driving it. Well, he still owns the car, so the owner of the vehicle, okay, the manufacturer of the vehicle, okay, and the people that develop the self-driving technology. So that's a lot more people. And are we ready right now to put all of our faith into self-driving technology? I know I'm not. Am I okay with lane keeping assist and stuff like that? Yes, but I'll be honest with you. I still don't trust it 100% when it's bad weather. I still know that it could make a miscalculation. So when it's bad weather, I do not trust it 100%. I think in a stability world, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think lane keeping assist is probably, that's one technology. It's probably like in a regular world day, it's probably like around a 7 or 8. In a clouded world, it's probably like a 3. In fact, when the weather is so bad, it won't even allow you to engage lane keeping assist. That tells you right there how unstable it is. It can't get enough data points to be able to calibrate. I think these are important things. And I think as we evolve into 2026, there's going to be a lot more happening with artificial intelligence. This year, you guys know I built my first AI robot, which was kind of amazing. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, as we go into 2026, there are going to be a lot more questions and, of course, a lot more answers. And we may not have those answers right away. But what we may have is the ability to learn from our past and be able to work forward. And I'm hoping that many vendors, many companies will start to understand that AI really is a tool. And we, as whether we're technical or non-technical, we are the deployers of that tool. And we have to be responsible for what it does at all costs. Ladies and gentlemen, I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. I thank you so much for following here on the JMOR Tech Talk Show. You can catch more of the episodes, replay this one and other stuff, and long form and short form content by visiting believemeachieve.com. Again, I wish you happy holidays, Merry Christmas, a very happy, healthy, prosperous 2026. May it bring all that you ever could imagine. And I'll catch you guys next year on our show. All right. Be well, everyone. And again, Happy New Year.